Hi, my name is Adriana and today I'm going to be doing the Why Haven't I Read These Books tag. I was tagged by Is Bailey Reading. Definitely go check her out if you are not currently subscribed to her. She is the best and she challenged me to do this kind of TBR related tag because I had, at the time she tagged me, just done a reorganization of my TBR shelf and she wanted to dig into my business and know why I'm not reading certain books. And honestly, for most of these, I just don't really have a good reason. So I'm gonna do my best to get through this tag and give you something as to why I'm not reading these books. So the first prompt on this tag is why haven't I read this classic? A classic can be interpreted a lot of different ways, but I think for me the one that is most why haven't you read this is The Odyssey by Homer. As a self-proclaimed Greek mythology girly, the fact that I've not read like any of the original sources, Ovid's Metamorphoses, the Aeneid, the Iliad, the Odyssey, kind of crazy that I have not read any of them. And I purposefully bought this year to read and I'm still just dragging my feet. It's an epic poem, so it's obviously written in kind of a poetry-ish prose, and it's gonna be a lot. There's lots of room in the margins for me to make notes, and I'm going to appreciate that I read it once I have, but the actual endeavor of getting through this is going to be a Herculean effort. So I guess that is one of the few I actually do have a reason for. I'm scared. The next question is why haven't I read this fiction? And I think fiction just means like general fiction. I typically don't read a lot of like general fiction, but one I did find that like I really want to read and I just haven't yet is The Sun Also Rises by Ernest Hemingway. I have read two of his other works, The Old Man and the Sea and For Whom the Bell Tolls, and really appreciated both of them. For Whom the Bell Tolls was kind of a slog for a bit because it is long. It's a long book. But this is not long. This is short. And I really do love Ernest Hemingway's writing style. And I honestly could get through this in a day and a half if I really put my mind to it. And I just haven't. I don't know why I haven't read this. I really want to. It's kind of got a, 1920s wild nightlife, post-World War I disillusionment, which is something I am personally very interested in. I know that Ernest Hemingway had kind of a tenuous relationship with F. Scott Fitzgerald, so I think it would be a really interesting thing to compare and contrast with The Great Gatsby. So I want to read it. Why haven't I? I really have no good reason. I don't. I'm sorry. I need to get on reading this. The next question is why haven't I read this nonfiction? And there's tons of nonfictions I want to get to and I will get to, but this one specifically, it's like, let me just show it to you. It is called The 1 Minute Manager. And it's by the same guy who wrote Who Moved My Cheese. If you work in corporate America, you have probably heard of Who Moved My Cheese. But this was a book handed out by my plant manager to the management team to read, to help them with their leadership skills. And I just never read it. Like literally, this would take me 20 minutes to get through. Like, look how big that font is. And look how small this book is. Why haven't I read this? Probably because I'm not a great employee, but it's ridiculous. I mean, it's probably not gonna like do anything for me in the long run, but like, why not just whip it out? Why not just read it? I guess if I'm like getting close to wanting to hit some sort of book goal at the end of the year, I could whip this bad boy out. Honestly, this would be a good readathon read. I'm gonna have to keep that in mind for the next readathon I participate in. Why didn't I read this during Wonderthon? Dang. Oh well. Anyway, why haven't I read this? Again, no reason. It's so tiny. The next question is, why haven't I read this genre fiction? The genre fiction I tend to vibe with is like science fiction, fantasy, or romance. So I had tons of options I could have gone with, but one I'm specifically picking is The Left Hand of Darkness by Ursula K. Le Guin. I really want to read this. I think the reason I might be dragging my feet on this one a little bit is because I am afraid that I'm not going to connect with it well because it is a little bit older. Like, I love Ernest Hemingway, but other than him, I really haven't liked any other like classical authors. And so I'm just nervous. I'm nervous to try it. Because I want to love it so bad, because I want to stan Ursula K. Le Guin. And I've heard this one is super, super great, and I picked it up for free at a local little free library, and I really want to love it. But I'm nervous I won't. So that's kind of what's keeping me from reading this one, is just I'm afraid it won't live up to the hype in my brain. And the last question is, why haven't I read this book that has been on my TBR the longest? And I've done a pretty good job at not keeping like super duper old stuff on my TBR shelf. If I've kept it for more than like a couple years, I tend to just get rid of it, because if I haven't read it in a couple of years that I've owned it, I'm probably not gonna get to it. But one I have been hanging on to for dear life for probably, I think it's about 2020 is when I bought this book, is King of Scars. Originally what was holding back from reading this book, I didn't want to read this until the second one came out, and then Rule of Wolves came out, but then I had this one in a paperback, and I didn't want to get a hardback copy of Rule of Wolves because I prefer reading paperback, and like as far as display purposes, I wanted them to match. So I waited until Rule of Wolves came out on paperback, and then I bought it, and I still haven't read it. So that was the reason I was dragging my feet, but now that I have both of them, a part of it is just so many people have given this negative reviews, and the opposite of The Left Hand of Darkness, like, I hope that one lives up to the hype. This one I know won't live up to how much I enjoyed the rest of the Grishaverse, and that just makes me sad because I really enjoyed the rest of the Grishaverse. I need to read it. I really do. But I either need to read it or get rid of these. Like, I shouldn't be hanging on to $35 worth of book if I'm not going to read it. So those are some books that I should read, but I haven't for a variety of reasons. So that just leaves me with tagging some other people. I'm going to tag The Danish Reader, Book Buds, and Lala Loves Lit because she loves talking about reading books and then just doesn't read them. So this is a perfect tag for her. So please let me know down below what books you are dragging your feet on. And thanks so much for watching, and I will catch you on the next video.